Shir Amalois Mimamakim Kirosicha Adoinoi. Imavoinois Tishmario Adoinoi Miyamoid. Kivisi Adoinoi Kivison Nafshi Vilidvaroi Hoicholti. Yachel Yisrael Adoinoi Kim Adonai Chesed Varbei Moifidos. Uyiftes Yisrael Mikol B'nei Sov. Baruch Hershel Shlita.
The time is short, it's Erev Shabbos, and the surah came very recent, and it was very hard to put together a Kovidik Alavaya, but Mrs. Elbaum has her own Kovid, and I just want to mention two things. I have a certain connection, in a way I feel like a son of hers. Why? Because my wife and daughters used to go visit her regularly, and my daughters called her grandma, and if my daughters call her grandma, so I guess I'm somewhat sound like a son. So I asked my daughters today, what could I say about Mrs. Elbaum? I didn't know directly, just not indirectly, from my daughters and from Shlomo. So what could I say about Mrs. Elbaum? So they said, you can say over, she was always cheerful, always optimistic, always had something smart and simchadik to say. I saw in the Sefer of Shimshon Pinkus, he says a Mordechai Inyan about the koyach of a person being in a good, optimistic, upbeat mood. And he based it on Chazal. Chazal say, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, that Hashem tzilcha al yad menecha. What does the word tzilcha mean? So normally you learn tzil means a protective shadow. Hashem is tzilcha, it's a protective shadow for you. But Chazal say in Medrash that tzilcha means a reflection. Hashem is your reflection. Hashem reflects you the way you are. If you put, and Medrash speaks out, you put your face into the mirror or into the pond and you give a smile, you get a smile back. You get a frown, you get a frown back. So, the Medrash of this seems to say that what it means is if a person gives the smile and is optimistic and is upbeat and has the bitochen, you swing the hashgacha your way than otherwise would have been. A person's mood, yes, can swing the hashgacha his way and otherwise would not be that way. It's you swing the hashgacha your way if a person's upbeat and simchadik. And they told me that she was always like that, even though there's some hard times from here to there, to nursing home, to this and to that. There was always something upbeat, something cheerful to do, to say, and that's what she was. And she really had those people around her. I also want to mention that she was Zeiche, apart from having a Riches Yomim of 94, she was also Zeiche, tremendous kibud aim, and the people who were in the city who were able to do more did over-the-board things to even be able to get into her during days of COVID. Did all sorts of shtick and things to be able to get into her and take care of her the best they could. And also she was zeicha to have bonim dam osim Torah mitzvahs. From the children eneklich, there's marbitzei Torah, there's loimdei Torah, a lot of Yiddishkeit. And also have to use this opportunity out to express my gratitude to Shlomo, her son, who gave my children and family bren for Yiddishkeit, bren for Aleph Beis, bren for Psukim, came from the enthusiasm of Shlomo, her son. Yerotzen should be a Melitza Yosha for her family and for Klal Yisrael.
Rav Blum Shlita.
שנרשם סיתקוני שבדור ניגול אבויסינו ממצרים. Always when Nigel from Mitzrayim were learning in other parshas of Geula because of Noshim Sitkonius. The Gemara says in Yuma, because of lack of tznias, because of pritzes, That's why the Beis Hamikdash was choref. More im Yume darf tes, different anhoges of preachers. So if because of preachers, the Golus came. So because of Tznias, the Geula will come. The Kavayosher state, the Losid Love, the Geula will come because of Tznias. A lot of things. It was Zoiche because of Tznias. Moshe because of Rachel's Tznias, she was Zoiche to Shaul. Because of Shaul's Tznias, Zoiche to Esther, and Esther's Tznias. Moshe said, Kimchis was Zoiche, that the children were Koyanim Gedolim, 40, because Leiro, Sarah's Roisha, Koiros Beisa, because her hair never saw the beams of the house. They asked once, Kanievsky, how come in the family of the Chazanish there were so many Gedolim? So he said, because the mother of the Chazanish was very makpid. Sheloiro, Saris, Roisha, Koiros Beisa. From Tznias, he zoiche to gewaltige Sachen. Chavetz Chaim says that for any hidur in Tznias, you're supposed to give in. There's Knesset Gedoyla, and upstairs it wasn't. Women wore, there was no mechitza upstairs, so the Ger Chassidim didn't want to let the Rebbe come in. So they decided they're going to ask the Chavetz Chaim. And the Chavetz Chaim said, the only place it said that the Shechina turns away from you, because of a lack of tznias, the Shechina turns away from Klal Yisrael. And Ashras HaShechina comes from tznias. The Nifteres was exceptional in the middle of in the Hidur and Digduk of tznias. Yevaldi, she didn't let a male nurse serve her. Even when she was in hard times, she was older. Usually people are older. They don't have the mind to be makpid so much. But she, to the very last part of her life, she was extremely makpid and tznias. This is a gewaltige Sache. Maybe that's why she was zoiche to such a beautiful, nice family, children, son, gewaltige Marbis Teure, Reb Shloime. Mamish was megadle, was mechanech. Hundreds and hundreds of Yiddish kinderlech, he instilled in them Yiras Shamayim, Avas Hashem, Avas HaMitzvahs. He was yoirish this from his parents, for his mother was so much a nefesh when she came to America, to these shores, right at the war time, right before the war. Chazal tell us, Hanenashe B'mezachi, what is the schus of a Yiddish woman, that she's mechazik, the husband and the children. And her husband needed a tremendous amount of chizuk. Because at that time, anyone who didn't work on Shabbos lost their job. And he experienced that also. And you need a tremendous mesichus nefesh. And for that, you need the gewaltige chizuk. And she was the Ezer Kenegdoi. She gave him tremendous chizuk. And she gave tremendous chizuk to the children and to grandchildren. She was so close to the children that even at the old age, she remembered all the birthdays of the children. It's not that the birthday is so important, but it's a siman ledover, how close she was to the children, and how sensitive she was to the children, how she cared for her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Today is a door, Rabbi Yisai, where this light, the Inyan of Tznias to a certain, is neglected in different ways, in the Malbush, in the different porcelain machines that we have today. We can learn from her to follow in her drochim, to follow in her ehrlichkeit, to follow, as Hirschfeld said, in always be mekabel everything, be'ahave, and in the gewaldige midas atznias that she has. We follow in her drochim, and in Mitzvah Hashem, the Yorat Legana, the Eber, she took away, she should be made, it's Yoisher. And if we follow in her ways, we'll be Zoiche Bekorev to the Gula Shalema, Bila Amoves Lanetzach, Umoch Hashem Eloikim Dimo Me'al Kol Pono.
Rabbi Feinstein.
I don't know why I would say that I have the schus to speak here any more than anyone else, because there were so many people in this community who called her grandma. She was not really their blood grandma, but they felt that she was their grandma. Working at Montefiore over the years, so many people just came and they visited her literally as though she was their grandma. It's amazing because when grandma came to Montefiore, perhaps she came because it was Cleveland kosher, a better standard of the food, but she wasn't surrounded by from people. Her unit, mostly had not from people, a lot of Jewish people. And from the get-go, she never said, what am I doing here? There's no one for me to talk to. I have less in common with these people. From the immediate get-go, she saw that she was destined to be the Rebbitzin, if I may say so, of Montefiore. Immediately, she thought, how can I help these people? How can I encourage these people? How can I bring them closer to Yiddishkeit and the Bnei Shalom? And that no matter what course you take, no matter how well you explain things, you cannot do what she did to bring Yiddish and Neshamas closer to Hashem. What did she do? She loved Yiddishkeit in the most authentic, basic, regular way. It was so much in her kishka, so much in herself of what Yiddishkeit was. It wasn't a makshava, it wasn't a thought, it wasn't a custom, it wasn't whatever. It was just life. And she was so regular and so American and so Jewish at the same time that these ladies that surrounded her all the time picked up what she did and what she said in so many deep ways. All those times she was making jewelry and arts and crafts and just talking with the ladies at the table. Can you imagine how she was in mashpia these people in her regular Yiddish straight thinking of who she was? It's quite amazing. She was a very special person. Everyone saw the Yisurim she went through, all the health challenges she went through, and she was just so strong. She had Pashut Emunah, she had faith in Hashem that it would be okay. And even when it was very crummy and it was very bad, she was a person who wasn't so invested and so involved in her pain. If her 8 o'clock came, if her son came, if something good happened, she could be literally lifted out of her sorrows. She didn't live in those sorrows. She didn't live in her pain. She lived on a higher level, of a spiritual level. I must say that one of the most amazing things that would happen is that when she had an engagement in the family, and when the chassan and the kala would come to her and visit her, she was so elevated. It was so incredible. And, I can go on and on about this, but the way that her family loved her was the incredible devotion that they had is, out of this world. Her son, her children, her daughter-in-law, it's so incredible. And truly her room was a museum, was a tribute to the love of her family. How many people have a blanket that has every single anicle on it? How many people sit by their phone for hours and hours and get phone calls? And I think that what was amazing to her was that a lot of the residents could have been jealous. They barely get a visitor a month. She got 100 visitors every Erev Shabbos, 100 phone calls. But I don't know why. I can't explain it. But her family's love for her was something that she shared with all the other residents. I can't explain it. They weren't jealous of her. They weren't like, it's not fair. All these religious people with all the hats and the beards, they're taking over the hallway. They were never mad because I think they just loved her so much because they felt so much for her. She was such a dear, special neshama, and we'll so miss her. And, whatever her family says, thank you for being there to help her. As the chaplain of Montefiore, she did way more chaplaincy than I ever did for her. She was the Rebbitzin, she was the chaplain. She brought Yiddishkeit. I didn't have to worry about her hallway because she was making sure they knew about the holidays coming up and the Shabbos coming up and everything. So lastly, I just leave you with a memory that even until recently, it was very shvach with COVID, but we had someone come and make a little concert, a little Onig Shabbos on a Friday, 30 minutes, 3 residents. But she was honestly like in Gan Eden. She would just sit there not feeling so good, and the way that she would shake, the way she would move, would just show she had this deep inner excitement. And she loved Shabbos, she loved Yiddishkeit, and she was just so happy to be who she was. It is the most incredible thing. I'll just finish with this, that it's so appropriate that this Parshas Bo is a Parsha of her Petira. Because what's Parshas Bo? It's in reminding Am Yisrael that we are a people. Hashem chose us. We're Memta Shari Tuma. We were at a very low level. There's nothing we really redeemed for except for the fact that we wanted to be Jewish and we were proud. And that was her. How much more proud could you be about being a Jew than Mrs. Elbaum? So we thank you for being her. Thank you for the lesson about being a Jew. And, Bilam Avs, that's all.
Tati.
Yemeshin Nesteinu Behem Shivim Shana. V'yim B'gvura Shmeinim Shana. Man is given 70 years to live, and with strength, 80. Mommy, or grandma, as the Cleveland Kahila knew you, you had a yad on life, a hand on life. Hashem gave you an extra 14 years. To me, you will always be mommy, but I will refer to you as grandma for the sake of everyone who knew you and loved you. Grandma, you were always a very giving person, always making sure that everyone always had what they needed. Daddy's Levaya was also on a Friday, and what were you worried about? That everyone in the family would have enough to eat for the Shabbos Sudas. Mommy, you always told me and Iris that the Chesed girls who came to visit you thought that they were doing you a Chesed. But really, you were doing a Chesed for them by letting them come and be with you. Mommy, even though you were wheelchair bound, your mind was intact 100%. There was not a birthday of a grandchild or a great-grandchild that you did not forget. Iris and I tried to do something that is not so often done, and that's making a chasna in Cleveland. And why? Only so you could be there to dance with our Kala Bracha. Bracha, you should know, Grandma might not dance with you, but she will be dancing. She'll be dancing with Grandpa, Bubby, and Zadie. Mommy, in the name of Mishpacha, in the name of my brother, my sister, and Iris, please be mindful of us for not giving you the true proper covet you deserve, for not being with you when we should have been. Iris, there's no words that I could say to thank you for being a daughter and not a daughter-in-law. How you made every doctor's appointment, no matter how hard, and no matter of the time that it took from your busy schedule. Macha Hashem Dimo Meyal Kol Kono.
Yitzi.
Like everybody's saying, one name to tight her up was Grandma. Whether it was mishpacha, whether it was friends, whether it was girls that came to visit her, you say Grandma, everybody knew it was one person. Everybody knew who you were talking about. There's so many maisim going back from when she came to America as a little girl. What her father did for Yiddishkeit, what her and her sister did for Yiddishkeit, her mother. Stories of kashrus, everybody knew Grandma to be an amazing person. And she had one midah which she only used it for good. Stubbornness. She wanted something. There's nobody in the world that would have been able to tell her no. And when she first came, I think it was I'm not sure if it was the YMCA or the JCC. Yiddishkeit in Bensonhurst wasn't so strong. Grandpa, like the Rav said before, lost his job every single Shabbos. He was niftar on Erev Shabbos. Could be the only reason why he was able to do it was because he had an Ezer Connect, like grandma behind him, who, the Shemoifen, would never let him go work on Shabbos. And then, like I was saying with the kasha, she went and she made sure that the people that came to this Jewish program was only ate kosher. And you see from so many more stories, you see that today's generation, unfortunately, it's very hard to see mishpachas that are whole. Grandma and grandpa's mishpacha is whole. There's not one child, grandchild, great-grandchild that's not Shem Shabbos. And it's a big mishpacha. Not one that's not Shem Shabbos. Tremendous chusim. Grandma, me and you had many private conversations. About different people in the mishpacha. There's no such thing as keeping a secret from you. You would not allow me to do that. And every time there was a problem, whoever it was, you dive and tell them for it. And you would tell me, sometimes you could say more than less. So when you were able to say less, you would call me up and you'd say, Yitzi, I could only said one, I was only able to say one kapitel for this matziv. It's to bother you. And I'll try to tell you that grandma, your one kapitel is worth whole sefer Tehillim from other people. And when I would tell you that there was Yeshua, sometimes it would light up your face. And sometimes you would have that look that, of course, what do you mean? I went to the Eibishter and I davened and he answered me. My grandson, my granddaughter. You might not be able to, we might not be able to see you by brachas chasana. You missed a few of our chasanas. We thought we'd finally be able to have you by one. But you at least got to see a chassan. I want to acknowledge my Uncle Moshe who's here. It's very hard for him to talk. Lito's in Montreal. Canada was not able to make it here. On behalf of all my siblings, the ganze Mishpacha, my cousins, Mechila, so much more we could have done for you. so much more that you wanted that we tried so hard, but we weren't able to. I know how much those things bothered you. Please go to the Kisei HaKodesh. Together with Grandpa. With all your schusim, that's all you wanted to see. You wanted to see Grandpa one more time. You held on for us. That's all you wanted was to see him one more time. Go together, be a Meretz Yosher. Take your stubbornness with you. Daven, don't leave. Until you get what you want.
Toiv Shem Mishem and Toiv. Toiv Leches al Beis Avel. Mileches al Beis Mishta. V'achai Yitin Aliboy. The Sipurne says when you talk about a Shem Toiv, a person who built for themselves a Shem Toiv, then the Chai will be Mishtadal. Those that hear will try to be mishtadel for themselves to develop a Shem Toiv. The Gemara says, Adam la'amol yulad. The Gemara says, la'amol b'peh. To serve Hashem with your mouth. I saw for Shimshon Pincus, he says, when the Gemara says, Tisha kavin shal dibur yar la'olam, Asara kavin shal dibur yar la'olam, v'noshim nakat tisha, it doesn't mean dvarim shal dvarim b'telim. It means Asara kavim of divrei kedusha, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was yarad la'olam, v'noshim nakat tisha, to daven, constantly talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The mile of a person over a behema, the yipach v'yap of nishmas chayim, Targum says, ruach v'mal, the ability to talk, to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Grandma was known to be connected with her Tehillim, always davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The amount of Tehillims that she owned, the amount of locations where they were placed, in shul, out of shul, at home. Grandma was always davening. Always striving to serve Hashem as best as she can. Heard about her Mesiras Nefesh, keeping Shabbos. Grandma told me once, because of her, she worked for the government, she was connected with the government. They offered her a free house. And she turned it down because it was too far away from the basic Knesset, too far away from schools, and she was concerned that her family would not be able to daven properly, her children wouldn't be able to go to school. And so she turned down the free house and had to pay money where they lived. Constantly striving to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better. Tremendous chashivos for mitzvahs. Ben Azmanim, we'd come home, Shabbos Chanukah. Grandma would be there for Shabbos, Yom Tov. On Motzei Shabbos, we got our private invitation to speak with Grandma in her room. She told me, Rami, I'm giving you double everybody else. Your learning is so important to me. Around second grade, when Grandma and Grandpa moved to town, we had a schus to spend Shabbos by them. The joy in preparing foods for Shabbos, spending Shabbos by Grandma and Grandpa, walking to shul. Grandma tried her hardest to be able to go to shul as much as she can, even in her older years. So much of a Friday night, Shabbos morning discussion was discussing how to get Grandma to shul, who's going to wheel her there, who's going to wheel her home. Grandma went to shul. When she moved into Montefiore, she used to always express how she can't observe Shabbos as properly as she wanted to. Bench licht on candles instead of electric. A proper Shabbos Suda. We tried. We would come on Friday afternoon, sing with her Shabbos miras. She looked forward a whole week to hear these Shabbos miras. When Rabbi Feinstein started the Erev Shabbos program, like was mentioned, those are whole chiyas. We say, Adam Yisayda may offer, v'soifel offer, benafsha yavi lachmai. Dr. Kiva if it's Adam Yisayda may offer, if he comes from offer and he's going back to offer, so why was he sent down to this world? Says Rabbi Kiva, we know that if a person would be Zaycha to the Hana and Olam Haba for free, it's what the Bali Musar call Nama de Kisufa, embarrassment. Embarrassing bread, you're getting it for free. The whole tachlis, Adam Yisayda may offer, v'soifel offer, even though you're coming from offer, you're going back to offer. Aber benafsha yavi lachmai. Spend your life, work on your nefesh, so that you'll be able to be yavi lachmai. That was Grandma's whole shifa in life, was connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, seeing peiros of Avodas Hashem. Like that, Smechila. We did come many Fridays to visit, but there were many Fridays that we didn't. There were many Fridays that we could have when we didn't. Grandma, I wanted you to hold Yosef Chaim. Please, take your koyach at tefillin, daven for him, daven for us, daven for everyone in the mishpacha. We should continue to bring you nachas, be nachas to Rebbeinu Shalom. Malcha Hashem dimuk, el kopanim v'noimar amen. El molei rachamim, shoychein ba'meroimim, amtzei menucha nechayin al kanfei hashchina, b'mailis kedoshim u'tohirim, kezoyar horakia mazhirim, es nishmas, tzurtul, bas Avram, shaholcha lo ilama, ba'avur shenod v'tzedaka ba'ad haskaras nishmasa, Began Eden Tehemen Uchasal, Chain Bal Rachamim Yastirel, Beseser Kenofav Loilamim, V'yitzor Betzor Achayim Es Nishmasa, Adonai Hu Nachalasa, V'sanuach Al Mishkava B'Shalom, V'neimar Amen. The Kfur will be in the Chesed Shalom as basic verse.